Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
John, it's gotten so bad with things, people becoming lazy and people becoming complacent and people just becoming gluttons that even our bald eagles have the problem. Did you hear this crazy story?
I did. I read it on this website that's brand new, Brad. They take news articles from across Missouri and they put them on a website. We've never talked about it on the show before, Brad, but every once in a while, a couple people around the state check it out.
Is this johncombest.com?
Oh, yeah, I did read it on my own website. You're right, Brad.
Well, I was hoping it was going to be one of your top three because I saw it there as well, too. I'm just giving you some good-natured jabbing on there. But where was this at again? What part of the state was this?
You know, the piece that I linked to was from USA Today. No, it was from McClatchy. And frustratingly, they didn't cite the state official whom they quoted in it.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. I have a different version of it on that I noted here, and I think it's with the Kansas City Star version.
Yeah, that's McClatchy, Brad.
Is that McClatchy? Okay. Okay. If you don't know what we're talking about, they found this bald eagle that they thought was hurt. As a matter of fact, and here's the beginning of the story. It turns out that an injured bald eagle didn't need to be nursed back to health, Missouri officials say, as the bird was simply suffering from success. The eagle was temporarily taken into captivity after being spotted at Wilson's Creek National Battlefield, park officials said in August 21st Facebook post. Is that in Springfield? Is that where that is?
Yeah, that is Springfield.
Okay.
Yep.
The bird was
Yep.
the bird was unable to fly, leading wildlife experts to believe it was hurt. However, an X-ray soon revealed a surprising and somewhat macabre reason why the eagle was grounded. It had just eaten too much. The bird, originally reported to be injured, was found to be healthy but engorged with raccoon. In other words, too fat to fly. Even our national symbol has gotten to the point where excess is the norm, right? An eagle, you think of an eagle as this strong bird, that it's the national symbol of the United States of America. The bald eagles, it's protected. You can't even, if you are caught with a bald eagle feather, you can be thrown in jail. And if you would ever harm a bald eagle, and if you killed a bald eagle, you may end up in jail for the rest of your life. But yet, we have an eagle that eats too much and he can't get airborne again. I mean, how bad is that?
I was, and I have to say, I'm glad I had clicked on the headline. I was going to miss this yesterday, but I did have it up on yesterday's headlines because when I saw Too Fat to Fly, I thought that finally Southwest Airlines had improved their boarding process.
How did I know?
Because I'm always next to an oinker with Sbarros who's got to stink up the entire row and have their third jelly roll. And I don't mean the singer, but their other third jelly roll of fat, leach into my. That's when I'm like, God, I can't believe I lost my, frequent flyer miles from American. And now I'm sitting next to some chub in Walmart flip-flops who hasn't worn deodorant in 2 days, who smells like sunburnt Hoosier. Have I ever told you, Brad, if I started a St. Louis candle series, my first scent would be called Sunburned Hoosier. And it would be based on the scent from the old VP Fair. You'd have like the scent of Newport's, Busch Beer, and Funk. It would be called Sunburned Hoosier.
John goes into his overweight rant of
Hey, it's a choice in America. Everybody can choose to be morbidly obese and get in my way in a scooter at Six Flags. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to poke fun at them.
When I heard this story, and then I looked it up, I thought to myself, this has got John Combest written all over it.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is a good story from, you're right, though, our national symbol. And how symbolic is that?
Well, now, hold on a minute now. I thought that when God created all this wildlife, that he put, what they call it, inane, sensibilities into for example, why are cats the way they are?
You mean innate?
Innate, right. Why are cats the way they are? Because that's the way God created them. Why do dogs do certain things that cats don't? Well, that's just because, why is it that the birds, migrate back and forth with the seasons? That's just the way they're programmed. Wouldn't you think that the bald eagle would essentially say, it's in my brain. brain. It's programmed in my brain. If I eat too much, I can't fly anymore. But apparently this bald eagle is like, I don't care about flying anymore. Somebody's going to come take care of me if I can't get off the ground, right? Isn't that the whole human mentality, mixed in with the wildlife species now,
I think so. And Brad, think back to your younger years, and you think of in your group of guy friends, you had one guy when somebody wouldn't want to do something. You had the guy that would taste the paint chip. You had the guy that would do the shot of the unidentified whatever substance it is. Like maybe this is just the Spicoli of the group, so to speak.
Hey, I don't know. Okay, this is a sad one. You probably already know about this. Sid Vicious died. You know what I'm talking about?
I did, yes, Sid Eudy, and shout out to Jason Rosenbaum because he was the first one who called us out. Yeah, the great Sid Eudy, a fantastic softball player. For folks who don't know, you want to explain who Sid is?
Sid, a softball player? He played softball?
Yeah. Yeah. And so part of go ahead and explain. I'll explain his connection to softball in a minute.
Well,
after you
Sid
explain
Vicious was he was a WWF back in the day guy, with WWF, then WWE guy, wasn't he? Or was he back?
Correct, yeah. He started in Tennessee with Jerry Lawler. He was Lord Humongous down there. And then he moved to WCW, and he had quite a career as Sid Vicious. He was a monster heel. If you picture a stereotypical steroid-laden guy from the late 80s, early 90s, you would picture a Sid Vicious.
Died 63, had cancer. And what's so sad about this is so many of these guys who were incredibly in shape and tremendous athletes. I mean, I kid about this all the time. Well, I don't really kid about it. It's a sad fact. So many people that I work with in the radio business who were seriously in the drugs are all gone now because of the fact that, once again, cocaine was the drug of choice back in the day. I don't know if it still is or not. Bet it used to be the currency of the entertainment industry, so to speak. And so many of these guys I knew that, hold on a minute, they were heavily into cocaine. I mean, my old boss, his real name was Kevin Matheny. Everybody knew him as from the Howard Stern show as Pig Vomit, or he had two different names, Pig Vomit or Pig Virus, depending upon. Stern uses both. They're the same name for the one guy. Once again, heavy cocaine user, died at his desk, working, at a radio station in San Francisco at the age of 59 or 60, stuff like that. And, it takes a toll on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that one of the unique things about, and excuse me, I'll tell the Sid Vicious story real quick, is that one of the knocks against Sid Vicious is that when he came in, he was positioned to be a monster heel or a monster bad guy because he was so huge, he was so strong. But his appetite for the business wasn't huge because his real love was playing softball. And, if you remember back in the day on ESPN, they would have, home run hitting contests and stuff with softball. Sid just loved to play softball. So in the summertime, the knock against him from promoters, guys like Vince McMahon and others, would be that Sid would rather be out with his buddies playing softball. And as the great Kevin Nash, a former wrestler formerly known as Diesel and others, said, the boys, the wrestlers never had a problem with Sid. The promoters did. And Nash's point was, gee, can you blame the guy? Instead of wanting to do 7 shows a week and bumping around on a hard canvas mat, he'd rather be out with his buddies playing softball in the summertime. Like, who can blame him? So, yeah, and he had a good reputation among wrestlers. And to your point, Brad, if you put steroids aside, which is a big thing to put aside, I don't think anyone from all the shoot interviews that I've heard have talked about Sid being into drugs. He wasn't a big drinker. Like, to keep that type of physique, in many ways you have to be really dialed in terms of your diets and what you're consuming. So I think that it was, obviously the steroids may or may not have played a factor in his death and the condition toward the end of his life. But yes, rest in peace to Sid Eudy. And he lived until, I believe he still lived in West Memphis, Arkansas, or maybe in Memphis until his passing.
Let's be honest. I mean, John, you follow wrestling. How many of those guys from that era, the 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s, how many of those guys could get that big just by going to the gym? I mean, come on. Give me an honest answer.
Almost none. I mean, and you think about, as somebody who spent a lot of time reading wrestling biographies and such, even guys that you wouldn't perceive to be body guys, even guys for whom their body was not their main selling point, still would experiments with cycles. So you look at guys like a Chris Jericho, who people generally don't presume to be a body guy. He's been open about the fact that right before he wanted to go from WCW, which was kind of the B league, to WWE, which was kind of the A league. And he talked about before he met with McMahon, he had made sure that he was on a really big cycle. He wanted to be as big and strong as possible. So to answer your question, most all of those guys at least had some experience with steroids. And let's not forget, Brad, that in a period of time in the 1980s, at least through the mid-80s, you could get steroids prescribed to you by your doctor. They weren't a schedule, whatever it is, narcotic. And you could go to the doctor and say, hey, I need something for a little pump, and your doctor would prescribe you steroids.
Well, they're still very widely prescribed for various things. I mean, in full honesty, I had a problem, I guess about 5 or 10 years ago, where I went through the cycle in life where I got super allergic to poison ivy. I didn't even have to touch it. I could be close to it, and I would just have terrible problems with poison ivy. What cured my poison ivy? My doctor prescribed steroids, and it was gone like in 2 or 3 days. Gone.
It wasn't. But isn't there? And I'm obviously not a doctor. But isn't there a big difference between, like, if you have a cold or a flu or allergies, and they give you a steroid shot, like, that's not injecting testosterone or anabolic or, DECA into your veins to inject you with testosterone, right?
Well, it's the same. I mean, it's a steroid. I mean, they're steroids. There's a member of my family right now that has had some real health issues and has been prescribed with steroids. I mean, and the thing you got to watch, and I think this is the problem if you've ever been on steroids before, is that typically what happens is you start out strong and then they do a taper dose. Where, like, let's say, for example, the last time I had it, doctor says, okay, take this prescription. First couple days, take 4 pills. And then after day number 3, take 3. Then after day, 4, take 2. And then take 1. And then you're done, okay? The problem is that it's the way your body metabolizes it and stuff like that. The problem is these guys who are the weightlifters, they don't taper off. They just keep on that cycle, and that's what causes you problems. I'm not a doctor. That's what I've been told. And that's
and you're right, Brad. So here's a good piece I just found for what it's worth on WebMD about how anabolic steroids, what we were talking about originally, and corticosteroids, which are prescribed by a doctor to help you fight off illness or allergies, are entirely different and not the same thing at all.
Okay. So when I got prescribed for that, I wasn't going to grow those great big Popeye muscles then, right? Is that what you're saying?
You weren't going to become incredibly vascular and have a bulging brachioradialis, correct?
How do you know about my brachioradiologist or whatever the hell you said?
Well, it's your forearm. You see him all the time. You like to show off the guns, Brad. You know what you always say, what you taught me. In the summer, sun's out, guns out.
That's what I taught you.
That's why you always wear short sleeve shirts, yeah.
No, that's why I don't wear short sleeve shirts, because Lee Clear told me not to. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?